It's so good to see you. So today we are going to be reading part, I don't know, of my grandmother's memoir. I do know that last time we ended where she was telling us about her dad and her mom. So now we are on chapter 7, and it is titled School Years. So let's get started. Okay. It says, we used to walk about 1.5 miles to our one-room country school. The name of the school was District 10. That's so strange. The school didn't have like a real name. Like all the schools around here, they're named after people. But this is just like a number. That's odd. Okay. In the spring and in the fall, we enjoyed walking to school because the weather was usually good. But in the winter, it was quite another story. We did not have a radio at home like most of the children did. I remember we did get a battery radio later on, but I think we were mostly through school by then. Because we had no radio and of course no telephone, we would not know whether there was school on a certain day or not. We would walk down to the school and we would get there, and when we would get there it would be locked and we could not get in. Then we would walk home, and if the weather had really turned bad, we would go to a neighbor's on the way home and stop at their home until we got warmed up. Sometimes it would be snowing and our eyelids would freeze shut. What? That is cold. I can't imagine. Ugh. I think most of us kids had a cold all winter long. Oh, I remember a cold. Of course, Mom would not wish us to miss a day of school if we could help it, and so she had to determine whether the weather was good enough for us to go to school. My brother told me recently that there had been an older District 10 in the same spot as the one we went to, but it had been torn down or burned down or something. My mom and dad went to District 10. They went through the 8th grade, but they were the smartest people I ever knew. I guess they didn't finish school, but I think back then a lot of people had to quit school to support families and stuff. Sad. The main part of the school was comprised of the desks for the pupils. There was a smaller room, which was called the library, with shelves of books. And then there's a picture at the top. It says, District 10, grades 1 through 8 were taught here. That's a tiny school. Okay. There were also 2 cloak rooms where we kept our wraps, coats, mittens, and overshoes or boots. These rooms were usually filled to overflowing because we all had so many wraps to hang in there. I guess if it's cold enough to freeze your eyelids, my gosh. We all had snow pants that would go on over our dresses. Every girl wore dresses then, even in winter. I don't think I ever saw a pair of jeans on a girl in those days. Yeah, I guess if it's like the 40s or something, I think jeans weren't that common for girls, at least. I don't know. Then we would all wear long stockings under our dresses. My sister Rosamond had a fur coat handed down from a relative. I always envied this coat so much because I thought it was just the latest in fashion. None of the other kids had one. She told me recently that she hated this coat because the kids in school would make fun of her when she wore it. They would pick off little pieces of fur, and she would go around and pick up the pieces and would try to sew them back on when she got home from school. Why are kids so mean? I don't get it. I remember standing with my back to the schoolhouse so nobody could see the huge holes in my socks. I believe there were outdoor toilets at first, and then the school went to a kind of porta potty for the children. The teacher would go to school early to start the fire with coal in the furnace, which was in the basement. And it says some of my old school pictures. We said the Pledge of Allegiance the first thing every morning. The grades were 1st to 8th in this school. All of the students sat in the same room studying. Can you imagine a 1st grader and an 8th grader in the same room trying to do schoolwork? No. When the teacher called for a certain grade, they would go up to the front of the room and do the lesson which the teacher had requested. That's crazy. A lot of the grades had only 1 or 2 pupils in them. Oh, so it must not have been that crowded. Okay. I remember that I took grades 1 and 2 in the same year. The 2nd grade had only 2 rather dumb boys in it. And I guess the teacher thought it might inspire them a little bit to have me in there too. I don't really think it was too inspiring to the boys. The day we were called up to recite, and I really had to, shall we say, pass gas, which was very smelly and noisy. Oh my God. I looked around just like the other kids were doing to see who it was. I don't think they knew it was me. Maybe the teacher did. Oh my gosh. My sister Marilyn was the oldest one of us kids and thus the first one to go to school. She took her lunch in a syrup pail. She said after she got home the first day, I took the syrup pail and threw it in the junk pile. I guess I thought if she didn't have her syrup pail, she would not be able to go to school, and I wanted her to stay at home. When my brother Roger got to school on his first day, the teacher, Mr. Pearson, told him to do something. He told Mr. Pearson to shut up. I guess he was not used to strangers telling him what to do. At recess, we would play Ring Around the Rosie, Red Rover, Tag, and Hide and Seek. Well, Tag and Hide and Seek are still played today. I don't know about Ring Around the Rosie or Red Rover, but maybe. I was never chosen until I was the last one left, and somebody had to take me on their side. I was definitely not a good athlete. Poor Grandma, she was the last to be picked. Something that affected us all in different ways was the death of Bonita Abfalter. At about age 6, she lived with her mother, Lorraine, her sister Sharon, and her 2 uncles, Milo and Albert, who were our closest neighbors. They lived at the end of our driveway. I don't remember what she died from, But Mom always said it was because the doctor gave her too many aspirins. I don't know if this was true or not. Yikes. Okay. My biggest problem in school was not being able to see the blackboard. My parents couldn't afford glasses for me, so I usually had to sit in the front row. The teachers would send home innumerable requests to address the problem. My right eye has always had blurry vision, and I had to use my left eye all the time. When I was a senior in high school and had a job of my own, I was finally able to buy myself a pair of glasses. That's crazy. That must suck not being able to see, But what are you going to do if you can't afford glasses? Okay. Chapter 8. Middle child. I was the middle child. I sometimes wondered if Mommy and Daddy wanted a boy instead of a girl when I was born. Theodora is in the Greek language means gift of God. My parents went on to have another daughter, and the youngest was finally a boy. I always felt like I was in the way and not much help. The two older girls would help a lot on the farm. I would watch the two younger kids who were cute, and not much was expected from them because they were so little. I never felt like I was worth much to anyone, and I really had low self-esteem, which I have to this day. That's sad. I was a very sensitive child. I really took to heart anything that anybody said to me. I believe that if you are told often enough that you are clumsy, then you become clumsy. Kind of like living up to expectations or something like that. The other kids would tease me and I would cry. In fact, my mother gave me the nickname of Rain in the Face. This was the name of a man who was a great Indian chief. I know she was just teasing me, but it still hurt. Poor Grandma. I remember how we always felt safe and secure at home. I think we knew that Mom and Daddy loved us, even though they never had time to show it. I guess back in those days, people didn't express love very well, like with hugs or kisses, and certainly would never say I love you to a child. It's not like that now, at least not in my family. I tell my kids that I love them probably about 20 times a day, and I give them like thousands of hugs and kisses, like I am over affectionate. It wasn't like that in my childhood though. Like, I don't remember getting hugged and kissed, and I think it's because my mom was raised that way as well. There was no hugs and kisses, and I don't ever remember hearing I love you. I mean, I knew that my parents loved me, but they didn't really ever say it. It's not sad though. I mean, but I think maybe that's why I over express my love for my children. I don't know. I love them so much. But how was I a kid to know that? Oh, certainly would never say I love you to a child, but how was I as a kid to know that? So she wanted hugs and kisses and to be told that she was loved, but she never got that. Sad. Much later, my sister Marilyn told me that she had studied German culture, and people of German descent found it very difficult to express emotions and rarely showed love with hugs and kisses. Well, I mean, that explains it. we are German. So, yeah. I mean, is that still true today for people of German ancestry to not express love or emotions? Like, I mean, I can definitely see that. Like, my grandparents did not show love or emotion, and my parents, they don't do that either. But I do. I don't think my sister does. My sister does not show love or affection either. That makes her feel weird and grossed out. I guess I'm just the oddball of the family. I don't know. Still, to us, Daddy and Mom were the king and queen. We would never have dared to talk back to them. Never even considered it. Now, that ain't true around this house. My kids talk back to me all the time. Ugh. This was the way with most of the children in those days. We respected our parents, our teachers, anyone in authority, and elderly people. They took care of us and worked so hard to do that. We were so grateful to have the parents that we had. Okay, chapter 9. The crazy teen years. I highly doubt my grandma was crazy. A crazy teenager? No. She was a good Catholic girl, but let's see what kind of trouble she was getting into. Okay. I was quite bashful as a teenager. I just could not make friends easily. I still have difficulty engaging people in conversation to this day. I had a few friends in grade school. Then in high school, I had a good friend in the 11th grade who seemed to seek me out. Her name was Margie. She was in my class all through high school. When we came back for our senior year, she had a new best friend. I still remember that her name was Adrian. They ignored me and told me to get lost. And so I did, and never bothered them again. That is so sad. That spoiled the remainder of my senior year. At least I thought so. Computers were not around back then. I remember when electric typewriters were first used. During my high school years, we used manual typewriters. The teen years were so hard for me. I feel like they are for a lot of people. As a girl, I was really plagued with menstrual cramps. Oh, gosh, okay. My periods were very irregular and painful. I would go to school and have to go to the nurse's office because the teacher would see that my face was extremely pale. In the nurse's office, I would lie down until the bus came to take me home. For this condition, my mom bought a big bottle of Lydia. What is Lydia? Lydia Pinkman's medicine. I've never heard of this. Every night, I took a spoonful at bedtime. It tasted really awful, and I don't think it helped, but I would take the medicine because my mom felt like she was doing something to make me feel better. At home, we had 4 girls sleeping in one small bedroom. The youngest, Gail, slept on a made-over crib, and the older 3 slept in one bed, 2 at the head of the bed and 1 at the foot. Guess who slept at the foot? Me. Can you imagine? Oh, I mean, at least they had a bed though. I once in a while would wet the bed, and my sisters really hated that. I always thought we were lucky that we didn't have to sleep on the floor. That is true. I guess the one thing that saved me was that I really liked high school and did quite well in my classes. I did not like home economics class one bit. I loved that class, but it was a required course, and so we had to take it. It wasn't required when I went to high school, but I took it anyway because I was like, ooh, we can like bake stuff, and I don't know, I thought that was fun. I remember one time we had to purchase a pattern and make a dress for ourselves, and then model the dress standing on a table up in front of the whole class. Okay. We also had to buy the goods to make the dress. I think my dress took about 1.5 yards of fabric, but Mom would only let me get 1 yard of material. Yikes. So she said that was all we could afford. We picked out a green and white pattern. I'll never forget it. There is a picture here though. It says my sisters Gail, Marilyn, and Rosamond, and me. They're really hard to see though. Okay, so she had to get 1 yard of material instead of 1.5 yards. Yikes. The town girls always ran to get the good sewing machines first. Most of them already knew how to sew, since their mothers would have the latest style of sewing machines at home. Mom only had the old threadle sewing machine, but she surely made some beautiful clothes with it. I guess it was like an older style sewing machine. Anyway, to get back to the dresses, we finally got them finished. I had accidentally cut a hole in mine, so I got up there anyway. Oh, because they have to stand on a table to model these dresses. I got up there anyway and tried wearing a sweater over it. The teacher made me take the sweater off, and I had to tell the truth about the hole. You should have heard the snickering, and I would say downright laughing out loud until the teacher made them stop. I have not been too fond of sewing since that time. I hate sewing, like repair sewing. I like sewing like quilts and stuff, but I don't know. If you're not, like, sewing quilts is easy to me, but like sewing a pattern, no way, I would totally mess that up. Okay, now the cooking part of the class was fun. We would take the sewing class for half of a semester, and then we would take the cooking part of the class the rest of the year. A boy would not be caught dead in a home economics class in those days. I guess they had shop classes or something, which would probably be the equivalent. I had an obsessive compulsive disorder. Me too, Grandma. That seemed to get worse during my teen years. Of course, there was no treatment for this at that time. I still have this disorder, but I have learned to handle it quite well during my lifetime. I guess at that time, people with this were just considered a little different. I never went to college. At one time, I considered becoming a nun, but I guess my heart was not in it, and I did not seriously believe that I could be a good nun. She would have been a great nun. I also wanted to be a movie star. She wants to be a nun and a movie star. What? I have never gone to a class reunion. Me either. Who cares? It's just, I don't know. I feel like class reunions are just pointless. It's like if you cared about any of them, you would still be friends, or you could just talk to them on Facebook or something. You know what I mean? Like, this does not interest me at all. Same. Like, who cares? I met my husband when I was 17. I got married when I was 18 years old, and I had our first baby when I was 18. Yeah, we know, Grandma. She was getting it before she was married. Risky business. When I was 19 years old, I learned to drive a car. My father-in-law taught me how. Wendell, her husband, had tried to teach me, but he gave up. So when he went to Thule Air Base in Greenland, his father taught me how to drive. That was my Grandpa Charlie. He's the best. I nearly drove him crazy. We would go to the airport for practice. I did pass the driving exam, both written and driving parts. I still cannot parallel park to this day, but I always seem to manage. Me too. Like, when I took my driving test, I took the class in high school. I couldn't parallel park at all. So the teacher was like, just hold on to the handle and I will move it. So he literally moved the steering wheel while I had my hands on there. So it was like I was parallel parking, and he passed me. I shouldn't have passed, but I did. Anyway, I would guess that we have had at least 75 to 100 different vehicles during our marriage. My gosh, that's like more than a car a year. What? I have driven an 18-wheeler. What? Why? How? Where's the story on that? A boat, a motorcycle, and of course, all of the different cars and trucks we had throughout our lives. We also had a camper at one time. Okay, that is the end of that chapter. I don't know. Didn't she say it was the crazy teen years? What was crazy? The only crazy thing was that she, got married when she was 18 and had a baby when she was 18. That's the only crazy thing. Besides that, I mean, she seemed pretty good, right? The next chapter is chapter 10, and it's claims to fame. I wonder what could be in there. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.